230 consumer groups have asked the Federal Trade Commission to investigate utilities for corruption. I'm Jay Warmke with Blue Rock Station, and this is the news for solar for the week of March 23rd, 2022. Well, the Enphase, these are microinverters, the Enphase IQ8 series received just recently certification to the 1741 Supplement SB standard. And what this standard does is it tests these microinverters to see how they interact with the utility. In fact, this facilitates communications between the utilities and the microinverters as well as the storage systems to which they are connected. Part of what's going on here with the evolution of the standard is they're preparing for the time when the utility can draw on stored power and essentially create virtual utilities or virtual generation devices for the utility. Climate First Bank has announced that they're offering financing for solar arrays under a scenario where it's an online system. They'll provide to qualified people applying for these loans 100% of the cost of their solar within 48 hours of applying. And their current interest rate is 3.99% for 25 years, no prepayment penalties. Now, the interesting thing here is they're committing to the fact that there will be no dealer fees associated with these loans. Apparently, it's been a problem in recent years where lenders have offered these really good financing deals, but once you get into the fine print, they're charging as much as 15 to 25% of the cost of the loan in dealer's fees to initiate these loans. The NREL has just tested a three junction cell. These are known as quantum well cells, and they've tested it to an efficiency of 39.5%. Now, this is the highest level of efficiency that has been tested for cells that are non-concentrated, basically operating within one sun of sunlight. They're not focusing multiple area onto a pinpoint like a magnifying glass. This beat the record previously that was a 6-layer cell that had 39.2%. These are very expensive cells, and at the moment, they're really only practical for some highly expensive and technical applications such as military drones or satellites. But look to the fact that cell efficiency continues to increase. Now, 230 consumer advocate groups have filed with the Federal Trade Commission asking them to investigate utilities for alleged corruption. They're accusing these utilities of offering bribes, running fake dark money candidates against people running for office who have promised to regulate the utilities stringently, and denying access to renewable energy to their customers. As a little bit of background on that, in 1935, there was a law put in place referred to as the Public Utility Holding Company Act, which restricted a lot of the behaviors utilities could engage in. But in 2005, Congress abolished that act. And since then, some of the utilities, some would say most of the utilities, are behaving relatively badly, using their monopolistic position to squelch any kind of compensation or innovation. First Energy, for example, has been accused of paying off to the Speaker of the Ohio House and his organization bribes of $60 million, which were used for political payoffs. In exchange, the Ohio House passed a law, passed regulations that would give First Energy $1 billion in ratepayer bailouts. Florida Power and Light has been accused of funding the dark money election campaigns of a number of candidates who have run then successfully, in most cases, against candidates who are pledging to crack down on some of the utilities' misbehavior in that region. And in an interesting twist, 85% of all installers in a recent survey have said that the utilities are not following their own requirements and their own regulations in approving interconnection to the grid, which is causing dramatic pileups and delays in getting access to the grid. In fact, Xcel Energy in Minnesota was fined $1 million for doing just this. And then 2 years later, the problem has not been corrected. So apparently these fines are either too little or not incentive enough to change behaviors. And in the horses already left the barn department, the European Union has announced that they're going to try and wean themselves from Russian fossil fuel sources. They're hoping to accomplish this by 2027. They've pledged 210 billion euros to this effort. They hope to double the amount of installed photovoltaics within the next 3 years, and then put in place regulations that say all new buildings must have solar and increase energy efficiencies and reduce the permitting obstacles to have solar installed. Well, that's the news from solar this week. We'll see you next week.